This is Chicago. Doors open on the left at Chicago.
Welcome to Chicago. Welcome to Chicago. Welcome to Chicago.
This is Chicago. Doors open on the left at Chicago.
Welcome to Chicago.
Welcome to Chicago. You're tuned into the TCSF podcast with Big Z and JC. Ivan will be joining us very, very shortly from the Tape Never Lies. And we're coming straight to you from the 606 Media Stewards, powered by True Chicago Sports Fans. This is episode 292, and we're fired up to dive into everything that makes Chicago great. Remember to check out 606media.com for your ultimate source, all things Chicago. Go there, check out the lines that we have for the podcast shirts, hoodies, baseball shirts. We got tank tops, you name it, hoodies. We got everything on there. So definitely check that out. And remember that you can check out all the podcasts. They're all archived right there. And it's, the Impossicated with myself. You got No One on the Weekend and True Chicago Sports Fans. So all of the podcasts are loaded up there for you. One-stop shop. Get your merch. Support us. And, everybody that's watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, that's all we got today. Go ahead and, hit that bell button, the subscribe button. And if you're on your favorite podcast app, leave us a 5-star review, drop some comments. It means the world to us. Keeps us, up on the charts. And we appreciate that. Again, so it's been a crazy week, and we'll get into that. So let's strap it in and get ready for an unforgettable ride through all of Chicago sports, culture, and beyond. JC, me, you, and Ivan had a wonderful weekend at Soldier Field. Do you want to talk about your first experience with the Chicago Fire home opener?
I was pretty tipsy. We tailgated, we pre-gamed, we had a little drink and celebration. Other than that, we can talk about good game. I think we ended up leaving a little early. I think they scored another goal after we ended up leaving.
Yeah.
I think the final score was 3-0. We ended up staying through the penalty kick, which made it 2-0. And then we kind of dipped. But you know what? Fun experience. I actually think I want to see a game in Europe. Because I feel like those games, they're just over the top with the soccer hooligans and, just the chanting nonstop throughout the whole game. The MLS experience, it's very, I don't want to say lackluster, but it's one of those it's not quite supported like it probably is over in Europe, where they are crazy for
soccer's life. Soccer's life, everywhere around the world. And the MLS it's a smaller league, and it did feel, because this is my first game at Soldier Field since they moved there. I've actually been to a couple games there when they're playing, Manchester United or whoever, but going there and seeing the lack of fan support, the lower level was pretty full. And then, they obviously blocked out one side where the visitors, usually those fans would be. And then the upstairs was, maybe a quarter way full. But again, this is due to you're at Soldier Field, a stadium that is really not meant for soccer as far as seating wise and amenities and so forth. It is not meant for that. You can tell, they barely spray painted the numbers of the football field that morning. It was a fresh screen on there. But it's definitely not a soccer venue. And because they left Toyota Park or whatever, I think it's SeatGeek Park now, that was a very intimate, I think it's at 8 to 10,000, but every seat's just on the pitch. And even if you were on the upstairs, you're on top of the pitch. So you're literally watching everything. It's not a bad seat in there. And then the Section 8, where they were nonstop. I was part of those Section 8 hooligans where you're standing up there and it's it's 4 sections across, and it just goes all the way up to the concourse, and everyone is standing up.
So for people that know the Bears, it's basically where the field goal posts are. Yeah. It's that area behind the field goal posts. They were chanting and cheering all game.
Yeah,
and it was great.
10 rows. It's only like 10 or
Yeah.
12 rows where they like, at Toyota State Park, whatever it was, there was 28, 32 rows of that where everyone's cheering. Like we would bring up the gigantic flag at the beginning of the game and shake it all over and then bring it all the way back down. And then there's a guy in the front on like a pedestal and he's leading a chant. He's going crazy ham, and you're just following along with the chants, and we're loud. And then you have the other section, the Latino section, on the other side of the pitch in the corner, and they have the instrument, and they're playing loud as well too. So it's like it was very of that European feel at that park. Now it feels like, and I do not mean this in a demeaning way, it feels like a Chicago Sky game. There's a lot of families, lots of kids. They're just there to watch the soccer game, take them out. There really isn't that atmosphere of, the fandom, the crazy fandom of what would be a soccer game. So that's what it's missing. It's missing that energy. And again, once they leave there and once they get their park at the 78, it's going to be a completely different atmosphere. So let's get ready for that because we're buying season tickets for that.
I don't know about season tickets, but I'll join.
I'll buy the season tickets. I'm buying the season tickets. Ivan, what was your?
I'm sure the season tickets are not that expensive, but again, it was a great time. My first match as professional soccer, and again, it interests me to now, like if I'm ever overseas, like if I'm in like Paris or London or wherever, Madrid, to potentially like, oh, like there's a match tonight, like let me find some cheap tickets that and again, I'm sure tickets over there are not cheap, or even to go to a bar and experience like the craziness like at the bar for these soccer matches would be interesting. Again, what we experienced at the MLS game, like you said, very family friendly, like you said, kind of too many seats being at Soldier. You know what I mean? Like obviously the venue, like the Fire, even though like, they won, you could tell like, and maybe it's the weather, because the weather was not fantastic over the weekend. It was still a little chilly. In my opinion, good enough weather to go to the match. I've been to much worse weather for a Bears game.
Mm-hmm.
That said, overall, like I didn't feel like there were that many fans.
No. Ivan, what was your experience like?
Like I said, it could have been a lot more exciting because of just spacious. It's just too spacious. Like if you maybe compact the fans, get it more intimate, you'll have a better experience. But also, like you said, once they build it up, the new stadium, you'll have Chicago Fire bars, you'll have Fire tailgates, you'll have a whole Fire village there that they will make the experience better. But I mean, it was cool. Like for the first soccer match I've ever been to, it was all right.
Yeah, definitely was nice. Especially getting the win, but definitely the 12 minutes of extra time was redonkulous, and that's when we left. What was it, like 12 minutes? That's insane. That's like a quarter of a match. And then either way, we scored again, and we were down a man since just a half. So the way they persevered after that. So it was a good game for the Chicago Fire, a 3-0 victory. They play next Saturday, March 7th at Columbus, with their biggest rival, and then they're home the week after that versus DC United. So we're going to start bringing a little bit more fire. I think they're a little bit more exciting. We'll see what they can do this season. Again, we're thinking every Chicago team needs to do better and be better. That way it's a vibrant and fun city to go to all these events, and then we'll have no time because we'll be going to everything. Let's transition over to what we really want to talk about today, which is all the news with the Chicago Bears. Tom Pelissero was on Rich Eisen show talking about that the Bears are keeping tabs on what's going on with Max Crosby and the potential that package that can go there. Then you also had who else? Albert Breer. He said the package would be or can be DJ Moore and Tremaine Edmonds for definitely for Jesus Christ, for Crosby. Not for Mac. We already did that trade. But yeah, I mean, how do you feel about that? Giving up 2 players, Ivan, instead of draft capital.
2 players, okay. Still don't like that you got to get rid of draft capital, but does Max Crosby put you over the edge? Like, I mean, I would expect him to be a huge plus as far as the pass rushers that are on the team. The thing is that we have a lot of empty spaces, a lot of slots that need to be filled, and a lot of decision as far as capital is concerned before we go ahead and really start making decisions on some of these guys. I think if it's Tremaine, okay, that's fine. And then if you trade, you're still going to have to give up a draft pick. Like it's going to have to be this year too, because they're going to want to try to replace him as fast as they could. But again, I'd rather not give up the draft capital. But if you could find a deal where you're not giving up something significant, God bless you. But I don't know if that's the case.
JC, what
I commented. We were talking off air while we were waiting for you to show up, and I basically said, like, if I can give up DJ Moore and Tremaine Edmonds, I'm great with that. If you're asking me for a first or a second round pick plus Tremaine and DJ Moore, absolutely not. I'm moving on. Like, I'll trade you Tremaine for a 5th or a 4th. Great, I mean. Because I'm sure they're going to extend him anyway. Like, if they're trading for him, they're going to extend him. But the bottom line is that you're not going to come to me, trade me Max. I have to then take on his salary. I'm giving you 2 great players for you to build your team around. Tremaine is going to lead your defense. DJ Moore is going to be the stud you need for your brand new quarterback in Mendoza that you're going to draft. So, and DJ is a great veteran in the locker room to help bring along some of the young guys that you drafted last year at wide receiver. All right. That being said, again, if I have to include picks to get that deal done, I'm out, because there's way too many guys out there on the free agent market this year in Owe, Phillips, Khalil Mack, Hendrickson. I could go on and on. The cat out of Miami, Bradley Chubb. Like, there's like 5 or 6 guys that we could potentially pick up at 0 cost in draft capital. So it doesn't make sense. Like, as much as I like Crosby is an A+ talent, do I think he is worth our pick in the first round? Absolutely. Because you're not going to be able to pick a guy in the draft that's going to give you the production that Crosby can give you. However, if I can sign a guy like Hendrickson or Owe or Phillips or Bradley Chubb or whoever and pay them, say, $20 million a year instead of paying Max Crosby $35 million a year, and again, I don't have to give up draft capital, that's what counts. That's what matters.
I mean, if you're looking at money wise, you could probably go with the 2 or 3 of these lower end of these of the free agents. Like, you have Clowney, you have Jordan, you have Phillips, Owen, and then Mack and Henderson, which is at the top. Yeah, Henderson's going to cost you a pretty penny, but you can get Khalil Mack for a little cheaper.
But Henderson is up there in age.
Yeah.
So he may not cost quite as much as you think. Khalil Mack, we know what his age is. I think he's pushing 35. So he's only really got about a year or 2 years left of like real production before he completely falls off. And it's one of those where like I'd be careful paying Mack, because I feel like Mack is becoming more of a specialist, like third down specialist. Like, he's not going to play every down and be productive at his age. So, then you, and that's where it's like, okay, Deo can be, say, first and second down, and then you bring Khalil Mack in on third down.
And then how much is that going to cost you?
That may work. What, for Khalil?
Yeah.
I mean, if you could sign Khalil for say 14 million, I think 12 to 14, I think would be fair. But I would not pay him more than 14.
Ivan, do you have any thoughts on that, or are you looking at defensive tackle as well with Jones, Rankins, Wilkins, Campbell, and Reeder available as well?
I mean, I'd look at every position. What's going to give you the most production at the least cost, right? Like we know Max Crosby is going to cost a lot, but can you find guys that, it doesn't have to be everybody free agent, be one or two guys that can help you to where you don't necessarily have to trade for Max Crosby. But again, I would rather see them fill needs through the draft, like major needs, like guys that are going to be here for a while, instead of giving up that draft capital for an older player, even though he is very productive. But still, I'd rather them go the route of let's pick up a couple guys through free agency. Let's see if we can get the best out of, the best out of some of these guys, probably last few years or something like that. And then try to just stock up through the draft, because, it's going to me, I think we'll still be a real contender. I know we'll still be a real contender, but as far as the defense is concerned and their ability to, take another step, you're going to need younger guys. You're going to need younger guys to develop, to put in Dennis Allen's system, and hope you get the most production out of them.
You're also again, you have those needs at defensive end. You have needs at linebacker because TJ's hurt, Edmonds is on his way out. You need linebacker help, and then you're also looking at cornerback with Wright leaving, Stevenson. We don't know what he's at, but you have some guys that are available: Asante Samuel, Joshua Williams, Shelby Azue, Trayvon Diggs, Kobe Durant at cornerback. You got Cameron Curl, Jalen Thompson, Kobe Bryant, Reed Blankenship, Brian Cook at safety. There's a lot of guys that, like you're saying, do we have enough money to fill all these holes, and also supplementing through the draft? If we can't take that big swing, if you take that big swing and then we end up with not filling with good talent on the back end where we need some of that, we're literally gashing with all these holes. Like, how do you fill all these holes at your second year as a coach? You've got the 25th pick. The picks from losing your assistant GM, that's still up in the air. Like, all these things are coming into factor all at one time. How do you guys would deal with that?
I mean, the biggest thing right now is, we need to know, like, are we getting these compensatory picks or are we not?
Right.
Like that to me, and I know the NFL and everyone has kind of said, like, don't hold your breath that you're going to get them, but it's one of those where it's like, it really doesn't matter whether or not we get those 2/3, because if we get those 2/3, that helps us tremendously, because like we can fill the safety spots, we can fill, different things, like 2 third-round picks, especially now that you can trade compensatory picks as well, is huge. You used to not be able to trade those picks, but now you can. So we could potentially move up as well to grab better talent. There's rumors of, we're looking at this linebacker, we're looking at this guy, we're looking at, and I know the big name is Caden McDonald, the defensive lineman out of I believe it's Ohio State. When you look at all the big draft big boards, like, he's right there at that 24-25 pick range, where it does make perfect sense for us to take a player like him. We have a deficiency at defensive line. Dexter, while he had a good year, was not fantastic, and we only owe Dexter $2 million. And we have a bunch of teams that are calling, asking if Dexter is available. Andrew Billings is a free agent. Billings had one of his worst seasons yet. Grady Jarrett is an older player who we are paying a ton of money, and it would be nice to get that money off the books. He's on the books for this year because obviously we cannot cut him with the dead money that we owe him. However, next year he can be cut and released from the team. So now is the year to grab those guys that are young, that are going to replace these older players. Because again, Grady Jarrett, great. He's going to play this year. He's already on the books. We already know that. But to get a guy like Caden McDonald in there with Dexter, with Jarrett to replace Billings, great. Because Shamar Turner, who we drafted last year, who ended up getting hurt, he was not very good at the defensive tackle spot, and they actually ended up moving him out to edge. And he played a little bit better right before he got injured at edge. But it's one of those where when you're drafting guys for a specific position and then you have to move them to a different position because they're just not able to be the big body you had hoped to hold up and clog the holes, well, that's going to be a problem. So not only that, the way I'm looking at this draft is, I know I sent you guys in group chat, it was an interview with the Bears offensive line coach. And he basically said, he goes, whoever was interviewing him, he said, I have had conversations with the Bears and I have had conversations with the players that are on the team. And I've let them know that we do not have a left tackle on this team. And he said that included Ozzie Trapillo.
Well, Ozzie's out for the year. Ozzie's out for the year. You don't expect him to play.
But go listen to that interview again. He basically said in that interview, even if Ozzie was available, he does not consider him a top tier left tackle talent, that he would feel comfortable manning that position for like the next 10 years.
Then Ivan, who do you put in there to replace Ozzie Trapillo going next year?
Yeah, better start looking in the draft, or
I'm going to say, so the name in the draft that I'm looking at pick, he's on big board at 22, would be Monroe Freeling. That's the guy that is potentially may or may not be there at our pick. I doubt he will be there. Then the next available tackle that would be on the big board is a gentleman, Caden Proctor. He's out of Alabama. He's 6'7", 360 pounds. Jesus. And if you go watch his highlight film and everything like that, they use him like the Bears used to use the fridge. They line him up at running back and have had him run the ball into the end zone. So at 6'7", 360 pounds, he is athletic enough to do things like the fridge used to. However, he is 20.7 years old. He is young, Caden Proctor out of Alabama, and he is very raw. I believe he's only started at Alabama for like 2 years. So he is very raw still. But like I said, when you go watch his tape, he's a freak athlete, but it's one of those, can he turn freak into technique? Because if he can put technique together and work with like Joe Thuney and get his technique right, then he could be that talent for the next 10, 15 years. But again, very raw. I would feel much more comfortable going with Monroe Freeling, who has the technique, but lacks some of that freak athleticism.
I mean, do you also have, I know we were talking about the draft, but there's also guys that are out there. Trent Williams, if he's released. A reunion with Braxton Jones. You got Braden Smith, Trent Brown, Jack Conklin, and Cam Robinson, who would be available.
There's no way I'm going back with Braxton Jones.
Oh, no. I mean,
I'm sorry. Like, we've watched Braxton over the past few years be a turnstile on that left side. I understand he may be on a very cheap deal because his capital and stock is so low that I don't think anybody wants him. So it's like, could you get him on a very team friendly deal? Maybe like 1 year, $5 million. You might be able to, but at the same time, Caleb would not be safe behind him. I'm sorry.
Ivan, you've been cutting up tape on some of these players. What impression from tape cutting have you gotten?
A lot of edge rushers, which is good for later. If we're gonna like the whole thing for me is you got to find guys that are ready to go now. Like your team's ready to win. You got to find a guy that's ready to go now. So whoever's the most NFL ready in the team's mind is the guy that they need to go with now, is whether that be defensive end, defensive tackle, or left tackle. I think that they're going to stick with that best player available like they did last season with Colson Loveland. Now, I'm not saying that if it's the best player available, they're going to go right to like a safety or something, but I think they stick, at least with that first pick, they're going to stick with the line. So I would just assume best player available, somebody that's ready to play right now.
Any preferences?
Not right now. I mean, edge, I would like edge like that just because we need pass rushers, but whatever you got to do to bolster up any side of the line is fine with me. Just in particular that left tackle spot because, Ozzie going down, which sucks. But yeah, whatever you got to do to bolster up that line, just make sure that they're NFL ready, not projects.
That's why, like, I've been talking to you. Like, to me, like the best draft we could do there, I'm going to throw a couple names at you, and I know you're going to go look at the tape probably later. But for me, it's pick round 1. I'm taking McDonald, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Round 2, look at this name. I'm going to throw it out to you. It's going to be either Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker, out of Texas Tech, or Deontay Lawson out of Alabama, linebacker. Both are 23 years old, so they're older, linebackers. Everybody knows Rodriguez right now because, I mean, the guy is just he's a freak and has had like 100 tackles per season for the past, I don't know how many years, at least the past 2. But Deontay Lawson is 6'2", 228 pounds. Little light for linebacker for my taking, or my liking. But he can cover sideline to sideline. So round 2, Deontay Lawson is the guy I'm looking at there. Then round 3, I'm going to go look at safeties, and I'm looking at a guy named Bud Clark, who would be, in my opinion, a great strong safety replacement for Brisker. Those would be my 3 rounds if everything went perfectly.
Okay.
I guess we got some.
Yeah, I mean, I
look at.
I haven't gotten to linebackers yet, but no, I mean that's fine. I would wait on a linebacker just because that's where I'm at. Yeah, like I would rather just make sure you get the line right away, and then you could focus on linebacker, safety, stuff like that. But I mean, I like Rodriguez a lot. I think he's going to be a really good player in the NFL. And then as far as Bud Clark, yeah, but I do like Bud Clark. I've heard of him. I've seen some highlights, but I still got to get to all this tape cutting.
And like I said, I've watched a few guys, and like I said, I mainly look at like, okay, when I do a couple mock drafts and stuff, I look at names that are like, okay, who are like 5 guys around this pick, as I'm picking here, like let's take a look at these names, and then I go look up their film and everything like that. And like I said, Bud Clark was definitely one of those guys that was like, okay, in the 3rd round, like he's not afraid to step up and like lay a hit. Like I really feel like he plays up along that box area, that he could definitely replace Brisker. Like I said, Lawson, for me, do you take a linebacker in the 2nd round? But for me, the biggest thing is, can he play sideline to sideline, and can he play coverage? So it's one of those, like, if he's fast enough to cover a slot guy or a tight end, That's super important in this league nowadays. So that is one of those things where it's like, okay, Lawson is fast enough to do that. Granted, his tackles are not, out of this world like Rodriguez, but it's one of those where, like I said, if this guy can play sideline to sideline and cover a tight end, like that's what I'm hoping to walk away from in replacing Tremaine Edmonds.
Oh, the Bears have a lot of work cut off to them. Tampering date is March 9th, which is what, next week, next Monday when tampering begins.
Yeah, but I would expect because DJ Moore's contract, not this year, but next year's money becomes guaranteed March 13th. So there's a lot of rumor that if anything is going to happen, it's going to happen before the 13th. Because they want to get rid of DJ before his money for next year is locked in.
I mean, it's got to be the right situation to give up on a pretty dependable receiver that played hurt for us, that was a locker room leader, that has been taking these young wide receivers under his wing. So it's got to be the right situation, the right trade, where we're getting a lot back. Crosby would be one of those things where, yeah, okay, it makes sense because the money matches up and we're getting impact player for impact player. So if there's no reason to deplete one side to get the other side, and that's why I feel about right now with the Bears, with having so many holes on the defensive side, and then the line on the offensive side is like, why are we taking area of strength and giving it away unless it's for a game changer on the other side, and then we can supplement another wide receiver either through the draft, late in the draft, or through free agency, because there was some wide receivers that are going to be that are veterans. Kristen Kirk, Brandon Cooks. There's a couple guys out there that can fill that veteran slot, but I do want all of our first year and second year wide receivers to take a next step forward, right? What is Rome going to do this upcoming season? For me, I think it's a put up or shut up kind of season for Rome, because he had a down year this year. So I just feel like if we can get those young guys to start producing, then yeah, you can move on from DJ and get some assets for him. So a lot of stuff to take care of on the defensive side. We've got a lot of stuff. We get tampering's the 9th, free agency starts the 11th, and then the draft is in April. So lots of stuff that can happen between here and there, and we'll keep everybody afloat of what's going on the socials. But closing remarks on the Bears before we take a break?
No, I mean, again, it's going to be tough to let some of these guys go. Like, people, they hold on to these players a little too tightly, man. And I know a lot of them, DJ especially, has done some great things for us, but when it comes down to it, like, these decisions, they're meant to make the Bears better, but especially since we don't have the money, we need to make these decisions. It's just a part of the business. It is what it is. Just look at it as the Bears opening up space to get better in certain areas, which they need.
Yeah, I'll say this. For me personally, I've stated before, I do not really, under any circumstance, want to get rid of DJ Moore. With Rome being injured pretty much all season, you really saw the downswing in his production in the second half. Luther Burden, I really hope next year he takes a step. I really think he can be a guy. Loveland, I think, can be an absolute stud. But it's one of those where to have DJ, Rome, Luther as your starting three wides, and then have Colston there, that would be absolutely huge, in my opinion, to getting us back to the playoffs. Now, again, DJ, I know there's this whole stigma of how much we're paying him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Don't worry about that. I understand we're paying him a lot of money this year. Next year, we can post June 1st him and only owe him $4 million dead cap, clearing $24 million. Deo will be gone. That money will be cleared out of there. Grady Jarrett will be gone. That money will be cleared out of there. So we're worrying about future. Like, I understand this year money is tight, but let's not sell the horse just yet. All right. Because again, DJ is a fan. Without DJ, I don't know that we would have made it into the playoffs as far as we did, because those last game winning plays that he did make were phenomenal. And I understand he had a down season. I don't care. Like, when we needed him, he was the guy to step up in those situations. So again, I can't wrap my head around getting rid of DJ just yet.
All right. Well, there's lots of stuff that's going to happen between now and next Monday, so we'll keep you afloat on all of that. Let's take a quick break.
I actually got a Big Steve on, so I'm going to be heading on out. So
you're heading on out. All right.
Yeah. Peace out. I agree with you. It's hard to want to get rid of a DJ. Like, I don't want to get rid of 10. It's like, I'm looking at money wise. Like, how are we going to bolster up, especially the defensive side of the ball? It is what it is to me. Like, you got to make a decision, whether if he's on the team, great. If he's not, well, we know what happened.
Yeah, and that's the tough call, right? Because I mean, you look at the production and you basically say, like, you know, was 65 catches, 70 catches worth $28 million? Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
But like I said, you look at how much he meant in the run game with his blocking this year, the little things that he was doing that added up to so much more than it was worth, playing through the injuries he played through while, you know, guys like Rome were out and could not play. You know, I understand, like, the last play of the season is really what leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth with DJ. But it's one of those where the talent that DJ has, the what he means to the team and that wide receiver room, it's just hard to let him go.
Well, again, we're going to see what's going on in the next week, and we'll figure that out. But Ivan's going to head over to the Big Steve show. Thanks for jumping on, Ivan. We'll talk to you on Sunday, since we're switching over to Sunday. So we'll see you then. Thanks, brother.
Later, guys.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break. And on the flip side of the break, we're going to talk Chicago Bulls basketball with a little touch of the Bears magic that happened there. And then we'll do some spring training notes, and then we'll talk some wrestling. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Hey there, Chicago enthusiasts. Are you ready to take your fandom to the next level? The True Chicago Sports Fan Podcast has got you covered with some serious cool merch that screams Chicago pride. From cozy sweaters to trendy tank tops, we got it all. Show off your love for the city with our iconic red, white, and blue logo, or stand out with our exclusive collection for the love of sports. Whether you're lounging at home, breaking a sweat at the gym, or cheering on your team at a game, our gear is a must-have for all you diehard Chicago sports fans out there. Don't hesitate. Visit bonfire.com/store/606-media-store/, or simply just click the link in the description and snag your gear ASAP. Get ready to make some noise, show your pride, and embrace the Chicago spirit with True Chicago Sports Fan Podcast merch. Designed for you, the ultimate fan, for the love of sports.
Hey guys, it's Steven.
And this is Sean, and you are listening to True Chicago Sports Fans.
Don't forget to listen to No War on the Weekend. New episodes on Monday. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, so we're going to go do a couple of shots. So let's kick it back over to Big Z.
Back to True Chicago Sports Fan Podcast with Big Z and JC. And it's time to talk a little bit about the Chicago Bulls, who did not win in the month of February. 11 straight losses, longest losing streak in history, Bulls history. And then they played the Bucks and had a 26-0 run at the end of from the third quarter to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, you know why, right?
Yeah, because I bet on them. I bet on them to lose, and they came back and won. No, it was because Ben Johnson was in the building.
It was that. Exactly.
It's gold. Anything that man touches is gold. And it was great because he was faking out the pulling up the shirt off, and he had great energy and he was loving it. So again, everything that man touches is gold. If he can coach the Bulls, that'd be great. I think it'll bring some intensity, some intestinal fortitude. But yeah,
I mean, the fourth quarter comeback alone is, I mean, That is the Bears.
That is the Bears. Exactly. You sprinkle some of that magic in there. So, hey, keep losing. Make it close for 3/4 and then lose and improve your draft position. And yes, do it without the anti-tanking rules. You're, you're letting the young guys play, and then take Giddy out midway through the fourth quarter. I know he had a triple double. You had a bunch of guys in double figures this week, but you got a lot of guys that are guard heavy that are trying out for next year. That's what they're doing. That's why they got all those guards. Now, the second round draft picks, we've talked about ad nauseum about that. That's the stupidest thing ever. But they do have a lot of guards that are trying out this year. Some of the big men they traded for, they're trying out for next year to see if they have any chemistry with Matas and Buzelis, because you're building around those two guys. You're expecting Giddy to be your superstar and Matas Buzelis to be the secondary person, and then you have some shooters that you can get around them. Are these point guards that you traded for or going to sign? Are they going to spread the floor and be able to shoot? And then you need somebody that can rebound the ball. That's one of the weaknesses of the Bulls is Patrick Williams being 6'8" and playing center and can't rebound. And you're looking at Rob Dillingham, 6.4 points with the Bulls. Who's your other? Jaden Ivey averaging 8.2 points for the Bulls. You've got Colin Sexton, 14.2. Let's see who else. Anthony Simmons, 15.2. Then you have, Nick Richards, 9.2. He's averaging 6.9 rebounds and 1 block. You're looking at what else? Gershon, I can't say his last name. Ubasi, I can't say his name. Gershon.
Don't look at me.
Yeah. 10.3 points, 6 rebounds. Right. So and then you have Leonard Miller averaging 6 points. So you have a bunch of guys who are getting their second chances. They're getting tryouts, and who's going to stay, who's going to go. And if I go in the same order with Rob Dillingham, that's a person that's probably going to stay. They're probably going to continue to keep him or repackage him in a bigger trade with, 14 draft picks, second round draft picks for something else, because he has 2 more years under control. Let's see, Jaden Ivey would be another player that probably stays. Again, if you can package these guys out, great. If not, he's very cheap at cost, and he's been producing pretty well for you guys. Colin Sexton is probably a player that they might let go. If they can't trade him, he might go. Anthony Simmons, averaging 15 points a game, probably going to go. Probably going to be one of those package players as well, because they're not going to overpay for him because his contract's up. You're looking at Nick Richards, probably going to stay, just a depth piece. He's played pretty good in the Bulls uniform from the couple of games I did get to see him play. But again, none of these guys are going to be eye-popping names that stick with us because they're rebuilding. They're or retooling, whatever you want to call it. Gershon is probably a player that does stay as well, if he can pick up his production at the end by the end of the season. If not, you could see him and the rest of these guys go. Leonard Miller probably gone as well. His contract is small. I can see them keeping him. Another depth piece, but in my opinion, there's really none of these guys that you're like, oh my God, we should keep them. There's none of these guys that are eye-popping that you're like, oh my God, here's another building piece. And again, I don't have the faith in this front office to do what needs to be done.
No, and not only that, how do you rebuild this team with 9 second-round picks? Like, we needed first-round picks to rebuild this team. We did not get those. Yep. And the bottom line is that, yeah, great. You can maybe hit or miss on some guys in the second round. However, like the talent is what the talent is. Like, let's be honest. Like, most of the time, and you can't listen, you can miss in the first 5 picks, right?
Yes.
We've seen where, guys that are supposed to be studs coming out of, college, they get to the NBA and they flat out face plant. All right. We've seen that. However, the likelihood that in the second round you're going to pick studs is very small, right?
I mean,
Like,
your Io, your Jimmy Butler, your Joker. I mean, again, to hit on something like that, it takes a while with a one to develop or two. You got very, very lucky on getting a player that no one saw.
but again,
some
like
value.
we talk about hit percentages, right?
It's very
So
low.
like
Very low.
picks 1 through 10 in the NBA draft, you might have a 50% hit rate that you get a guy that's going to be a star, right?
Mhm.
Then picks 11 through 15 might be 45%. Then it goes to what? So by the time you get to the second round, it's somewhere like in a 20% hit rate that you're going to get a guy that's worth anything. So again, it's we need first round picks to rebuild this team. Don't get me wrong. You can draft guys that will play above their potential. But again, the likelihood, the hit rate, whatever, doesn't, the statistics, if you will, do not show that the likelihood is very good. And then you add in, as we've discussed, that we do not like this front office. We do not trust them. Then you add that into account and it makes it even worse, in my opinion.
It makes it really, really bad. And then looking at just anybody's mock draft, the Bulls are looking right now to pick ninth, and they're saying Braden Burries from Arizona, a small guard who's 6'4" and a freshman. Okay, that's not going to help this upcoming season. A freshman 6'4" when guards are like 6'6", 6'8" now. Again, for me, it either you move up in a draft and you get a impact player with all those second round picks and your trade a package or whatever you need to do. But come on, like you've got to keep losing to improve your draft.
To
Value.
me, at this point, you're selling every pick you own. Like if we end up with anything better than the 9th pick in the lottery or whatever, like say we even end up with like the 3rd pick, I would sell that pick for like 5 future firsts. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
And again, I don't know if I would be able to get 5 future firsts, but like I'm going to get as much as I can to help rebuild this team.
Right, and then also you also have the Trailblazers first round pick if they make the playoffs. So they obviously it is like top 4 protected, but right now they're selected to be round 1 pick 12, and they would quote unquote be picking Thomas Hall, Florida junior, 6'9", 215 pounds. Again, if you can package, like you said, package those two and get a haul, right? Or even be able to move up and get one of those legacy picks, right? You want to get either one of the boozers or something like that where you want to go and get that high. Okay. Take a big swing and hopefully you don't miss. But right now,
I don't think that'll make a difference because at the end of the day, yes, you have Buzelis and yes, you have Giddey, but is a legacy pick in one of those guys going to put you over the top anytime soon? No. And,
I mean, I'm expected to win next year anyway. So, like, again, it's going to be another developmental year.
And that's why I say I would just trade all my picks for future picks because at the end of the day, and I'll be honest with you, it sucks because then Buzelis and Giddey, like it's another wasted year with those two.
Correct.
And then they're going to get frustrated because they're constantly losing. They're not playing winning basketball. They're on a horrible team, which will sour their relationship with the organization, which again may push them to want to seek free agency. But at the end of the day, from what I've seen of the free agent list, it's horrible. Like there's really not anybody like, okay, James Harden, great.
Oh,
like,
no, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Austin Reeves, whatever. Norman Powell.
No, thank you.
Averaging 23 points per game. He's an all-star, and it's one of those where it's like, okay, but we have enough shooting guards, which granted, I think like 7 of the shooting guards we picked up in all these trades will be off the team after the season. But then it's LeBron James with his age, no thanks. Trae Young, we already have Giddey. Don't need Trae Young. So it's like, all right, then notable restricted free agents. Well, those are restricted. That doesn't help us. So when you look at this kind of thing, it's just where like, where would I spend my money? Who would I try and, bring back to the Bulls to make them a better team? And it's one of those, like, you can't really sell me on any of these guys.
No, there's really not. I mean, LeBron James is probably going back to Cleveland. James Harden will probably go to Cleveland to go help him win. Trae Young is going to make. I think he's making his debut today with Washington. Trae Young can. I think he's still young enough to help someone. Kyrie Irving, is he going to stay in Dallas? He's been hurt a lot. Or does he follow LeBron James back to Cleveland? And then you have your 3-headed monster and whoever else they have. Now they have an all-star team in Cleveland to win one. Jalen Duren, Austin Reeves, like you said, Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray, again, that he's going to go to a veteran team to try to win. A pretty good shooter. Like, you're not getting Draymond Green. That's no. Kuminga. I mean, they've been after Kuminga for a while, but just couldn't get a package together. DeAndre Ayton, no. Ben Simmons, absolutely not. Gary Payton.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're looking to unless you're going to re-sign Kobe White, like Vucevic, like some of those, because there's other notable, like I'm looking at other notable free agents, Kobe, Vucevic. But would they want to come back to this team after like just getting traded away from them? I doubt it. Especially like you already know that the team sucks.
Yeah.
Like, would you want to come back? Not really. Now again, can the Bulls offer a package better than most other teams? Maybe they can, and maybe that does bring Kobe or Vucevic back,
or Io,
or Io. But again, the state of the franchise of the Bulls is in a very bad place. And I don't know how it gets better.
Well, it doesn't get better. And let me see what's their next game. Their next game is against the Thunder, so you can put the L on that already. They're playing the Thunder tomorrow at 7 p.m. The Thunder are, what is their record? A lot too little, 47-15. So you can put that in marker in permanent ink. That's going to be an L. Just
they could probably sit most of their starters and still get the win.
Yeah, they've got the Thunder, then they've got the Suns and the Kings and the Warriors and the Lakers, Clippers. So they're going on the West Coast trip after playing the Thunder. So yeah, they'll be going around. And again, looking at the standings, they are the 12th seed at the moment with 25-36. And all those wins were from the previous players. So the Wizards are 16-44, and the Nets are 15-45, and the Pacers are 15-46. The Pacers are going to be a problem to deal with because once they get Halliburton back and they get a high draft pick, I mean, sometimes those catastrophic injuries where your superstar's out for a year ends up helping you in the end moving forward for your organization. So the Bulls need to lose a lot more games. This is what, 50, Durant's 61, so there's 20 games left. So if they can lose 19, I'd really like that. Keep losing.
Yeah, I mean the bottom line is we have to get into the lottery. We have to get a good pick with the lottery. And
then and if Portland gets into the 10th seed right now, if they can climb up and get into the playoffs, then we get that other first round pick. And now you can start talking, maybe you can maneuver some stuff around, make some draft picks or trades for some veteran players that you weren't able to sign, but they're, you want to bring them as a building piece, just like you did for Giddey. So the Bulls are the Bulls. They're stuck in purgatory. And unfortunately, we got to continue to talk to them about them for the next 20 games. But it is getting warmer outside, JC. And a lot of that is bringing along with spring training and the Cubs and the White Sox. And the Cubs announced that Justin Steele has been cleared by the doctors. I saw a little bit.
I sent that to you guys in the group chat.
Yep.
I have to be. I sent that pretty late too. I think it was like 1:30 in the morning, 2 in the morning, something like that. Like I happened to be scrolling and was like, "Oh shit!" Because we talked about it last week on here and basically said like I hadn't heard any news at all, and I kind of said like hopefully Justin Steele can come back and even by like August be something in the rotation, well even if it's picking up 2 innings, 3 innings, in that 6 to 8 inning range, like so the starters go innings 1 through 5, he comes in, does 6 7, oh god, listen to me saying 6 7. But like I said, if he could pick up like 2 innings and be like some long relief, because again, like you don't want to put him in like too much on his arm too fast. But yeah, when they announced like no, he's good to go and doctor signed off, it's like I'd still be very cautious and err on the side of caution and not push him too hard.
No, you don't want to push him at all. You again, we've got time in spring training still where you can still slowly ramp him up and stretch him out. But he's definitely going to start the season either in a rehab assignment with a AAA team, or you put him in the bullpen and letting him pitch 1 or 2 innings, and then slowly start stretching him out to maybe a mid-game reliever, and then to starting. Right, you got to slow play that because he is a good talent. And he is going to be a cog that's going to help you get into the playoffs and hopefully, all the way to the World Series. That's the plan. Once you have pitching depth, that is huge when you get into the playoffs and moving forward. So, God, I hope that he's going to be okay because he is a stud, and I do like what Justin Steele brings to the table. So, let's see. I got other news. You're looking
For the
at
Cubs, I think they lost 17-9 today.
Yeah, they got their butt kicked today. Again, I mean, you look at the starters, they played 2 or 3 innings. It's spring training. That's why the White Sox beat them yesterday, and I'm like, I'm not saying anything because it's spring training.
Yeah,
it's minor leaguers versus minor
as I said last week, I feel like the more they lose in spring, the better the regular season will be.
Yeah,
same thing with football. The Lions can go 4-0 in whatever, and then go 0-16 during the regular season. So it's one of those where like I don't care about spring training. Like yes, I like the news of like Justin Steele is back, right? I like to hear the news of like Shota looks like he's back to form, which I haven't heard that. I'm just saying like that would be great news to hear.
I mean, he gave us home runs.
Yeah, it seems like he's doing that. And you know what? Hey, like again, when you're a pitcher, when you start putting too much on film and the analytics start catching up to you, things happen, right? Like that's what baseball is. They track every pitch, they track everything. And it's one of those where like, okay, great. Like, hey, Shota, they're on to you now. Now you got to switch some things up. You got to, change the delivery. You got to change whatever you have to do to make it in the league. So whether or not you fast pitch a couple pitches and then slow your release and everything down on the next pitch, like start playing like a timing game, where your wind up and everything else, like sometimes it's fast, sometimes you slow it down, sometimes you know what I mean? Like there's ways to play games with batters' heads. And like I said, sometimes it might be worth doing so. How do you feel about the new was it the ABS system? How do you feel about it?
About the being able to challenge calls?
Yeah.
As long as it's the response time is very quick, and it should be because we have all this crazy technology now. I'm fine with it. But we'll see. At some point, it is going to be robotic where there's going to be some AI that tracks the ball and it's going to say either it's a strike or a ball, and the ump is just going to be there for the other calls, right? Just like the other um, umpires are around the field, where he's calling just plays at home plate or whatever, a balk or whatever. That's coming. Right now, they're you can challenge a play. How many times have we seen that when it's like eighth, ninth inning, bases loaded, 2 men on base, it's 2 outs, 3-2 count, and it's a pitch that's way outside, and the ump just rings you up, and you're like, absolutely not. And then your player gets tossed. Like those are the things you want to get rid of, but at the same time, it's going to be an adjustment for all of us. I know the catchers and hitters are not perfect. I've seen them when in one game was four challenges in a row, and the umpire was right on 4 challenges in a row. And then I've seen other games where the players have it all right. Again, it's all perspective, especially in baseball, and you're tracking a ball that's coming at you at 90 to 100 miles an hour. You're going to make mistakes, and that's part of the human element of baseball. So again, I'm indifferent because yes, you're introducing this AI technology and this instant replay technology, but are we taking too much of the human element out? So we'll see.
Well, to me, with the pitch framing and everything of that nature, like I kind of like the new system, because it's one of those like you watch pitcher or like these catchers snag pitches from which is a ball and move their glove up into it's that whole snatching motion.
Yep.
And again, I understand where the umpire is making decision calls. And the funny thing was, I saw something where thank God Angel Hernandez is no longer, behind the plate. But and again, we have those umpires that they make mistakes back there that are just
egregious.
when you're watching it as a fan, they are egregious. But then at the same time, you sit there and watch these catchers pitch frame, they're again snagging the ball, and it's even sometimes when I'm watching, I'm especially low in the strike zone, it's ooh, I don't even know if I could have made that call. You know what I mean? Because it's one of those where it's because the glove is moving, and it's just
Well, and the other thing that people don't understand, that the strike zone isn't a box. It's a 6-sided. It's the entire plate, and it's 3D, right? So it's the entire plate. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. What is it? 5? Is it 1, 2? Yeah, 5, right? 5, and it's elevated, right, to the height of the batter, right, from the knees to the letters. So yeah, if a pitch comes around the zone but it ends up in the back of the plate, it's considered a strike to the letter of the law. It may not look like that on the box. It looks like it went inside, but and then the catcher catches it and it's right in the zone. People need to understand that too. So
yeah,
there's a lot.
and that's the other thing is the rules for in the rule book of MLB of where are you supposed to judge the ball crossing the plate versus the ABS system. I think the ABS system is towards the back 2 corners of the plate, where most of the umpires are in the rule book. It said it should be at the 2 front. I kind of half listened to the explanation, but it was one of those where the ABS system is not in accordance with the MLB rule book of where you're supposed to technically count the pitch as a strike or a ball. So it's one of those where it's eventually okay, hey, first year, they'll get that corrected. If they can do this pitch system anyway, trust me, they can figure out a way to make it line up with the rules. That said, I mean, like I said, it's crazy to and then it's okay, if you challenge and get it correct, you keep your challenge. If you challenge, get it wrong, then you lose it. So it's one of those where I know guys are going nuts right now in spring training, but it's one of those I wonder if the skippers and everybody are going to be hey, we are protecting this. You better be freaking sure. So it's where they're going crazy in spring training right now, challenging all these pitches. Come season, are they going to be challenging like crazy?
I mean, do you want to waste your challenge in the first inning? No, you don't. You're like, screw it. I'll take the strikeout right now. I'd rather take that when there's something on the line. When, if I'm down a run or two in a 6th and 7th inning, yes, then I'll challenge you. But again, I feel like first inning, all right, bro. All right, cool. I'll see you next at bat.
But then, it's also like these batters like have to take their ego out of it and be like, you know what, that was too close of a to really challenge.
Yeah, and then how many of these again? All major leaguers are phenomenal, and they're the elite, the 1% of the 1%. But then you have your guys like Tony Gwynn that struck out less than like 60 times a season. That man knows the strike zone. Your Frank Thomases knows the strike zone. Your Alex Rodriguez knows the strike zone. Your Hall of Famers, those are the guys that, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt, and they would be amazing at this and getting extra calls or an extra pitch. So it's going to take some time to get used to it. We were up in roar when they said, the pitch clock. I don't even notice the pitch clock anymore. It's very barely noticeable. The only time you notice is that
to me, like I still feel like they need to dial the pitch clock back a little bit. Because
give them more time. You talking about giving them more time?
Yeah, just a little bit more time. Because again, like when I go to a game, like now, like I'm of the old school where it's like I remember like games being like 3 hours, 4 hours.
I loved it. That was the whole point of baseball. I'm enjoying an afternoon or an evening outside.
Yeah,
having a beer in my hand and some nachos and a dog with some grilled onions, and you're enjoying being outside. And I know everyone's on technology and you're scrolling. I'm at the game. I'm enjoying the game. I may take some videos and some pictures, and then the phone goes back because I want to enjoy the game because I'm going to be present there. You don't get that with the other sports because you're mostly indoors. Like football, you're because it's fast paced. Yes, I get that. But baseball is supposed to be chill. I'm watching the game. Either it's a pitching matchup or it's a hitting matchup where, all right, they're going to score 10 runs today because the pitching's horrible, or it's going to be 1-0, and that's how the game wins. The end's over.
To me, like I think there is a slight overreaction and like, and again, I got to look it up. Actually, let's see what
my biggest thing.
What is the pitch clock?
I believe is it 17 seconds or 20 seconds.
See, like to me, and let's see.
My biggest thing with your point is, I think the game is good right now, but they have to collect the data and look out because these guys are pitching faster pace, and how much of the arm is how many guys are getting hurt because of this. And my example of that, I did my pre-bowling today for tomorrow because I can't go bowling. And my first game, I was phenomenal. I bowled a 198 because I couldn't pick up 2 splits. It would have been a 200 game easy. And I was exhausted because I'm bowling by myself. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't know how to pace myself. My second and third game were horrible. They were the 130s. It was horrible. And I felt like I tired myself out because, like you said, I got 15 seconds just to rest, and then I got to throw again. And unless there's a play
so here's the rules. Here's the rules per MLB. All right. Pitcher has 15 seconds to deliver a pitch when no runners are on base. 20 seconds when more than one runner is on base, and 2 minutes and 15 seconds between each half inning. If a pitcher fails to start their windup before the timers run out, the pitcher is charged with an automatic ball. So again, to me, I would change that, right? Because again, I understand like you want to speed up the game, correct? However, I would be like, all right, pitchers, you have 30 seconds to deliver a pitch. And then like when runners are on base, again, I don't disagree with the like, hey, you can only throw the ball to first so many times. Because like how many times have you been to a baseball game and you get a runner on base and then like they do the pickoff play like 7 times in a row? And it's like, okay, that's ridiculous. You shouldn't be able to do that. Like that's clearly like they're just eating up time. As for like players on base, say like, so you have 20 seconds to make a pitch. I would make that say 35 seconds. So again, nobody's on base, you still have 30 seconds. When somebody's on base, you have 35 seconds. In between half innings, I would make it 5 minutes because again, like you still got guys playing catch in the outfield. You still got catchers trying to put gear on if they were batting. Like I would still make a little more time there as well.
I think the time between innings is going to be dependent on commercial breaks. So you again, I think.
Well, again, they're the rules per MLB, as I'm telling you, it's a 2 minute and 15 seconds between each half inning.
Yeah, they have to be on the mound within that time,
right?
And warming up, right?
So I thought, okay, so maybe then I need to look further into this. Yeah. I was under the presumption of like they have less than 2 minutes and 15 seconds to warm up and then be pitching to the first batter.
No, because commercial breaks are usually about 4 minutes. Commercial breaks are usually about 3.5 to 4 minutes. So, again, I think that, when you go to a baseball game, you see a guy, leave the ball on the mound, they go off, commercial break, and then, everyone comes out there warming up, and you'll see the pitcher get up there on the mound and just start warming up. So I feel like, all right, you got some time to get your butt out here and get warmed up. So get as many warm-up pitches as you want. There's no limit on that because it's at 2:15. We should be ready to go unless they're waiting for the commercials or whatever. But even then,
yeah, I guess my whole stance on it is just I think they went a little overkill. Like I said, like the whole 15 seconds between pitches. And again, like I remember, like we grew up in the era where like pitchers between each pitch would walk off the mound, play with the rosin bag, do all that stuff, touch their hat, wipe themselves, like I said, I think 30 seconds between each pitch would be more than enough. And again, like you have some guys, look, they're still going to pitch at 15 seconds. But again, like you're messing with the batter, with the timing, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it is, like it's still more than enough to now you're playing a little bit of gamesmanship. And is it really going to add that much more time to the game? I don't think so.
It's insignificant. And again, baseball should not. And I get
but again,
it.
I can't tell you how many times like during the season, like my phone will ping. All right, Cubs are playing. And then like I feel like 20 minutes later, my phone's like Cubs lose or Cubs win.
Yeah,
I'm like, wow, dude, that was a short
the issue with that is this,
that's a short game.
Especially if you have a stadium, it's a jam-packed stadium and you're trying to get in and you're getting in around game time. By that time you get in, you get to your seat, you're at the bottom of the second inning. You're like, well, I missed like a third of the game already. What the hell? So that's the thing I don't like about that because you're going to miss a lot of the game or you go to the bathroom or you get some concessions, there's long lines, you come back, you missed an inning and a half. That's the part what I don't like, right? If you blink, you miss. So it's like, all right, now you got to improve your concessions process. You have more people going out and selling concessions or, shorten the lines, whatever you need to do. But again, I kind of agree with you. They should extend that time a little bit just because I feel like it's rushing the game. It's rushing the game. Games are going 2 hours and 15 minutes rather than 3 hours. And I'm there. I'm enjoying those extra 45 minutes because I want to be at the ballpark. I don't need a shot clock. And in my opinion, I know what you're saying is like, oh, the pitcher's, touching his hat, walking around, touching rosin bag, calling up the catcher. I need to talk to you about your ex-wife, all those things, right? And that takes forever. Yes, you can exclude some of that. There's only so many mound visits. That's fine. So many pitch throws the first or throws it to a base. Yes, I like that. And again, I think if you look at how many injuries there's been in the last couple of years because of this rule, and I would say maybe not because of this rule, but it may be a factor that these guys are pitching a lot faster and not allowing for their arms to reset, and you're maybe rushing it or pushing it too much, and you might end up getting hurt, and that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, I like I said, I agree with you because I think they went a little too overboard, and now that they realize how overboard they went, they should relax it back a little bit. Again, I'm not saying like, hey, from 15 seconds to 30 seconds, maybe it's 15 seconds to 25 seconds. You know what I mean? Like I said, that gives the pitcher an extra 10 seconds to, whatever, adjust, to look at their bench coach, to get some direction. You know what I mean? Like I said, and especially now that like they have these like systems where, the catcher's pushing a button to make the pitch call. It's one of those where like things are so much faster anyway, that it's one of those where why does it have to be such a short period of time? Again, like we've talked about, like they're losing concessions, they're losing beer sales, they're losing merchandise sales, I'm sure, because again, like, where the seventh inning stretch and all this stuff, people would get up, go to the bathroom. Like you're losing so much of the game as a fan that it's like, why are the fans not complaining? And again, I think, hey, we went, like the MLB person needs to come out and just be like, hey, we did this. It's a little too extreme. It's a little too drastic. We're going to pull it back a little bit,
Well, we're going to see with the CBA, which they've already started, to talk. And this may be, and it might be the priority, because the priority is going to be the cap, the floor cap, and the salary cap. And it's going to be a hard cap. And I think they were talking about it being, I think they said 140 or 160 as a floor, and 260 to 280 as a ceiling. Now the issue is what about their pre-existing deals with the deferred money? How does that go into the cap? And that's what they're going to try to figure out. And that's going to take some time until all that money falls off the books. Then they can really enforce the hard cap. We'll see what else they're going to talk about, because you have that. Your rules change for this. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be addressed. Minor leaguers not getting paid enough. They're making what, like 40, 50,000, and they're on the road all the time, and not getting fed well, or being housed very well. The amenities are pretty crappy. So those things, there's a lot of issues with baseball that they need to fix, and hopefully they can come to some agreement, because I don't want a strike or a lockout coming the next coming season, because our baseball teams are, one, you guys are in the hunt, the Cubs are in the hunt, and the White Sox are getting better. Speaking of the White Sox, you had Brandon Montgomery. He hit a home run. Corey Lee had a couple doubles. You have a lot of these White Sox players that are young bucks doing very well. Benintendi took a day off. He had some right side oblique kind of thing, so they're holding him off a little bit. Carroll's doing well. Luis Angel Acuna hit a home run the other day, a solo home run. So you're seeing some of these kids get some action, so you're going to see what they look like. I do see Acuna probably, I think he might, we'll see what he does the rest of the spring training, but he might end up on AAA to start the season, as the White Sox do have some veterans on the main roster. You're looking at Higgins Smith and what was my other guy? Higgins Smith. Let's come on. I had it on the tip of my tongue. There we go. Higgins Smith and Noah Schultz, your flamethrowers, right? But Noah Schultz hasn't thrown 100 innings yet as a major leaguer. Higgins Smith had control issues last year, so that's why he wasn't pulled up. Tanner McDougal, another arm. He's 22, but we'll see what he can do, right? You have all these young arms that the White Sox have been cultivating through trades and drafting, and you're going to see these guys starting to come up because they're at the precipice. They're at the top of AAA. And so we'll see what happens with the White Sox. I know their win total is 68. They can easily win 70 games. That's if they don't sell to diminish the team. Like they don't put a white flag and then like, all right, now we'll stick up the kids and see what they could do when there's no offense and or defense. You know what I'm saying? So I'm excited about the White Sox. Lots of great things happening. Roch Chalosky hit another home run. They were down in the ninth, I think they walked it off. They were down 3 runs and grand slam or something like that. He's had 7 home runs in the last like 15 games. He's like fourth in home runs. He's got 7, and his teammate has 10 or 11. I mean,
If I were the White Sox, I'd walk up to that guy and be like, "Hey, here's a wooden bat. Can you show me that you could do the same thing with a wooden bat, please? Just for fun, just for giggles."
I mean,
can
if
you show me you can hit with a wooden bat, please?
his home run that he hit was 448 feet at Texas Stadium, the Ranger Stadium. I think they play at the Ranger Stadium. Yes, it was with a metal bat, but 448. Let's say it's a wooden bat. Let's say it's 415. That's still a home run.
But again, we know something like there's guys out there that they're allergic to wood, man. They, for whatever reason, it is just not the same when you give them a wooden bat. So
Well,
I would just, hey man, can we see you take a BP with some wood, just see what happens.
see what? Yeah, definitely.
But no, I think he will be a superstar for you guys in the future.
It looks pretty good, and he's got the name Cholowaski. He's got the ski at the end. It fits right into the South Side lore, like Ron Karkovice. Yeah, we got a lot of those guys. So again, I'm excited about White Sox baseball. I'm excited for baseball overall. We'll be going both to the Cubs and White Sox home openers. I am taking the Cubs home opener off. I got to put that into the system, and definitely White Sox is the week after. So it's tons of baseball, and I'm excited. We've got WBC, we've got the NFL free agency, spring training, March Madness. Then we got the draft. Like, this is the best time to be a sports fan because everything is happening. Soccer just started, MLS just started as well. So a lot of cool things happening in Chicagoland with our Chicago teams, and I'm excited. But I mean,
yeah, I guess we'll talk off air about opening days.
Yeah,
because we really haven't talked about that much.
Yeah, we gotta
but yeah, I mean, like I said, Cubs, I think they're gonna have a good season, and we'll see what happens. I'm not a betting man, but like I said, I really do think that high 80s win total should be very doable.
High 80s.
Now that Justin Steele is back, it's like, oh great, like that's a nice little cherry on the top for Cubs fans.
I think the Cubs can definitely win 92 games, over 90 games. I don't think the Brewers are going to be that much of a threat, and the rest of that division is straight trash.
Yeah, to me, it's like I don't necessarily worry about the division too much, but for whatever reason, the Brewers always come out of nowhere at the end of the season. They get hot. They make us look like idiots. So like I never count them out, but it's one of those where
Well, the Cubs bat went ice cold.
Yeah,
at the end of the season. That's what's killed you. So again, it shouldn't happen. Not this year. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, why would it not happen this year? I mean, it's the same exact team except for Bregman.
We'll see. We'll see if they make any more additions. At the trade deadline, I think you still need another bat, another DH to be added there.
And that's the thing is, you look at it, and I know Cody has kind of gone over it that it looks like a lot of the pitchers have caught up with PCA and his batting style. So it's one of those like we hope that PCA can have same kind of year he had last year, but again, analytics rule baseball, and when they figure out, hey, like this guy can't lay off high fastballs, or like, with Javier Baez, like this guy can't stay off of sliders away in the zone. It's one of those once you figure a guy out, like it makes things a lot difficult in the end. So
yeah. Well, again, we're looking forward to baseball season. All right, before we get out of here, to talk a little wrestling. Elimination Chamber was in Chicago at the United Center. First time since like 1994 when they opened the building that was built for
we passed by.
We did pass by. We passed by the Superstore. We passed by the United Center as that was happening because we went to the Chicago Fire game. And again, it was I watched it. I even watched it at the bar, and it was a pretty good match. You had 2 elimination chamber matches, one for the men, one for the women. You had Becky Lynch versus AJ Lee. You had CM Punk facing Finn Balor. Again, it was a pretty good pay-per-view, or PLE, as they call them now. We'll see, because now you have your WrestleMania is set, where you have Randy Orton won the Elimination Chamber with the help of Seth Rollins, who came back as the Masked Man. We knew who he was at the entire time. But you had Randy Orton facing Drew McIntyre in pencil right now, because Drew McIntyre has to face Cody, because he screwed him so many times out of the title in the past year. So on SmackDown, they're fighting before. So put that one in. Randy Orton's going in. Who's going to be his champion that he'll be competing against? We shall see. On the flip side, you got CM Punk facing off Roman Reigns for the championship. That should be very entertaining. You got Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley for the ladies. You're probably going to see Becky Lynch and AJ Lee run it back for the Intercontinental. Again, it's starting to shape up. I don't think it has the mystique and power to drive ticket sales even more. I know they're down like 15 or 18 or 20% down on ticket sales. They don't have a marquee name, and maybe they announced that they're inducting AJ Styles into the Hall of Fame. So that's some ticket sales right there. But as far as like big star power, this is not the WrestleMania. This is a down year for WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking the past couple of weeks that, you look at the state of the roster and it's like, all right, there's a couple names, but I hate to say this, we watched LA Knight have one of the worst botches
Again,
I've seen in a while. So hey, look, I understand, like, there's sweat on those ropes and everything else. So,
Yep.
I don't blame him that his foot slipped, but I mean, it's a botch, right? A botch is a botch.
It's a botch.
It looked bad.
It did, and then Randy Randy took the little stomp when he came down, and Randy rolled towards the crowd. Obviously, it's in the cage, but he rolled towards the crowd, and he was caught on camera laughing, like hysterically laughing about the botch.
Yeah,
it's great.
And like I said, I mean, we've seen where Logan Paul, before he does some of his crazy flips, like, he'll wipe the rope, or the referee will like do something with the rope to make sure like it's dry.
What they usually do, they'll put their armpit on it and they'll walk across it to dry it off, right?
Right. So like I said, I don't necessarily blame LA Knight for the botch, but again, a botch is a botch.
Yeah, it continues to happen.
Dude, like, it seems like you botch quite frequently.
Yeah.
And we've had this conversation of why does this guy not get pushed? Right?
That's
like with him and Drew McIntyre, that they have the physique, they have the look, they have somewhat of the promo skills to do a promo, but it's one of those where it's like, the guys, like, mistakes like that keep you from getting the push. And unfortunately, it is what it is. That said, I didn't get to watch the Elimination Chamber because, I was doing other things that evening. But, I know who won and I know the gist of everything. Can you, because you watched, tell me about the Seth Rollins thing, because
the Seth Rollins thing is because Paul Heyman turned on them. And he ended up getting written off because he got injured. So Paul Heyman turned on them, and then the vision became Paul Heyman's vision. It just so happened that Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed both got injured in the last couple of weeks. So you just have two guys. You got Logan Paul and what's his name? I can't remember. And who?
Brock Lesnar?
No, Brock is not part of that. Oh my God!
I thought he was with the Vision right now.
No, he's still with Paul Heyman, but not.
But he's not part of the Vision. Okay.
Yeah, Austin Theory. Austin Theory is the other guy. But yeah,
wasn't Austin Theory one of the masked guys at one point too?
Exactly. He was one of the mask guys at the beginning. Exactly. They've been using this for the past year and a half. A lot of mask guys, a lot of things like that. So yeah, Seth Rollins kept sending wrestlers from his wrestling school that have gone through his wrestling school. They might be part of developmental. I don't know. But I've seen a couple of guys that are like, oh, who are you? They take out the mask and it's not Seth Rollins. And then you look him up online, like, oh, that guy is, he went to Seth Rollins' school for a little bit. And he's an indie wrestler. Yeah. So, you have that diversion. And, he was able to get into the cage because someone just got pinned and they were taking him out. So he was able to stomp on Logan Paul. So it was good. It was good. So that's probably going to be a match. Seth Rollins and Logan Paul for WrestleMania if he's cleared. I don't know if he's cleared yet. So I still haven't watched Raw. I had it on in the background, but I did not get to look at it. We'll see what happened with Seth Rollins because he was doing interviews like he's not. He said, "Oh, my arm is not good yet," and we know how Seth Rollins does. He faked an injury last year, so
yeah.
So
well, that and we were discussing as well. Because I watch these little clips and vignettes and whatever online, and I was watching two guys. They were talking about the AJ Lee and Becky Lynch match,
yeah,
and how it was like kind of an older era match, like not up to today's standards. And again, we know AJ Lee has not been wrestling for a few years, so might be a little rusty and out of practice. But they basically said like the last 2 minutes of the match, like things picked up and like their performance was better the last 2 minutes than the beginning of the match. So that said, I mean, we can keep going at this and keep beating a dead horse, but it's one of those where like we keep talking about the state of wrestling, the fact of like, Undertaker retiring, AJ Styles retiring. There's a lot of the old guard that were the names, that were the draws that are leaving. And you're kind of left with this younger talent that it's like, where are we right now? Who's the guy who's, because we're talking about like, I guess Cody was getting booed.
I mean, Chicago is very much a villain, an antagonist kind of town. They will cheer for the bad guy. So yeah, they didn't want him to win, and that's perfectly fine. It's Cody fatigue.
Yeah.
We've been saying
it, and that's the discussion is that everybody wants to see him turn heel,
and he might be turning heel because he, you had who was it? Jey Uso got attacked, and who else? Jacob Fatu got attacked. Like there's been some attacks, and Cody's always like the first one there. Oh, is he okay? Is he okay? And it's like I can see them planting those seeds for him to turn heel. And great, yes, you need bigger heels. You need Seth Rollins as heel. You need the more heels you have, the more that the protagonist or the good guy has a mountain to climb. And then you knock him down, and you let him climb again. And you knock him down, and then he gets over the hump. That's how you build those stories, right? You have long-term storytelling by doing that. The bad guy's going to cheat over and over until the good guy finally gets over the hump. Yeah, and then everyone explodes and cheers, and it's a great time. It's storytelling. And right now, you don't have the right tools to tell the story. Like we talked about with LA Knight, you botch stuff, and that's why they sent you a couple pegs down again. And then you get hot again, and then you're in a big spot and you'll botch it. Roman Reigns is pretty much done. He's got maybe a year or two left. Cody Rhodes,
let me stop you there. If Roman Reigns only has a couple of years left, what does Randy Orton have left?
Randy Orton has. I just saw his podcast. He said he can do 5. He said if his body allows to do 5, because he's taking a long time off. And also, you got to remember that Randy Orton came up in a time in the early 2000s till now, but he was wrestling 300 matches a year. Right. Now he's wrestling maybe like 15, 18, 20 matches a year because he doesn't have to put his body on the line like that anymore. So you'll see him at our pay-per-view.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're saying Roman Reigns only has 2 years, which, and again, I understand he in his own personal life has had bouts of cancer and different things of that nature. But it's one of those like Roman's a young guy still compared to Randy,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So for you to say like, oh, this guy's only got 2 years left, it's like, damn, then what does Randy have? Like,
Well, Randy's 45, and he's missed a couple of years with the back fusion,
yeah,
and then the torn shoulders. So he's taking some long times off. So
yeah.
again, Randy is one of those guys that's one of the smoothest silk wrestling, as picked it up just by osmosis because his grandfather and his father were wrestlers. I think he definitely can do another 5 years on a limited role where you don't have him wrestling every week. Yeah. So
But
use him
again,
as
like
an attraction.
that's also part of the problem is that when you have great talent like Randy and then you make them part-timers, it's like, okay, it was great. So we lost another talent. He's only performing 10 times a year. Like he shows up for WrestleMania, he shows up for Elimination Chamber, but like he's not there like every Monday, or like if he is there every Monday, it's just to shoot a promo and whatever. He's not necessarily wrestling. So it's one of those, like, again, the product on television seems
Gonna
to be
suffer.
going
Yeah,
down.
and that's something that's been discussed among the wrestling circles and different podcasts, especially with the old timers, where they're talking about like, well, we used to wrestle so much, and yes, it was a stupendous grind. But because you've got so many reps with so many different people, and you're at house shows where it's not televised, and you get reps with someone, and you can try something different, and you can be more of yourself instead of being locked into that character or locked into a time frame. But you're getting all these reps, especially as you're coming up. Those are important, right? That's what you're talking about. And I know what you're talking about. Oh, well, these older guys who used to wrestle 300 now only wrestle 25, 30 times a year. The body doesn't have that callus of falling on the mat or whatever. And that's how people get hurt.
And look, like, I don't disagree. You don't want wrestlers wrestling all these house shows. I disagree. Like, there should be some house shows.
There should be some house shows. There's
But
nothing now.
whether it's one house show a week and it's the night before the actual live event, so you're like, okay, we're running through like, again, so house shows in Indianapolis, real show is 2 days later in Chicago. So like you're not putting two shows on in the same city. However, it's one of those where it's close enough for travel purposes that the talent is not out on the road as much, But the bottom line is that they got to do something because, I mean, as we see, like TKO is a business, right? They want to make money, they want to make profit. Okay, well, so your overall, like, as a business was, we're going to eliminate house shows that makes, say, $50 to $100 per person for a house show, right? We all know, like, it's not a live event, there's no title changes, but we're still getting to see our wrestlers wrestle. And even at a lower quantity, like, it's not as important as a Monday night or Thursday night or whatever. But the bottom line is, like, they're still getting the reps. We as a fan are still getting to get to see it as a fan, and TKO is making their money. Well, now TKO is eliminating those house shows, basically saying like, no, we don't want our wrestlers getting hurt. We don't want them doing this, ... Well, now they're raising the prices of WrestleMania to make up for the lost revenue of those house shows. But then the problem is that the talent, because they're not getting the reps, is going downhill. So TKO, in their grand scheme of things, like, you're fucking this up, guys.
They've definitely dropped the ball. They priced out the families. You also, like, you're not letting these young guys get enough reps. And again, there is opportunities to get reps. You can go down to NXT, or now that they own AAA, you can go down there and get to a different storyline. You can have a storyline with the Raw or SmackDown, and still have like Dominic Mysterio. He's down there doing his thing over there, and still on Raw and SmackDown doing that. He's getting multiple reps. He's doing that because he wants to do that. He said, "Give me the ball. I want to do this." Okay, great, love it. But that's because who's his dad, right? Rey Mysterio, who taught him and trained him and said, "Hey, you need to do this. You need to do this." You need to do this. And then he goes to NXT and he's under Shawn Michaels, right? Then he comes up. He's back with his dad. Like, he grew up with all these old school wrestlers. So he has respect for the business and he has respect for all these guys and doesn't want to mess up.
Yeah,
So
but
he's gonna put in the
you
time.
know at the same time there's people that don't have respect for the business.
Right. There's guys
Like,
and gals that are
hey,
there just to make money and be famous. You're right.
right. Like, I'm here because I look good physically, or I'm 6'7", or I'm 350 pounds, or I just look like a freak. You know what I mean? And like, they don't want to get better. They don't want, and I'm not accusing any one particular person. I'm just saying, like, we see it in the wrestling. Like, it looks sloppy. It does not look polished. It does not look like prepared, or you know what I mean? Like, I can't tell you how many like WWF and WWC, like when I was in like the 90s were it, man. Like every match you watched, whether it was like the British Bulldog versus whomever, the Hart Foundation, like the Road Warriors, every match seemed like a phenomenal match.
That's because
And
those
then,
guys wrestle 340 days a year.
But again, like, this is where, like, I keep saying, like, TKO is messing up by getting rid of the house shows, because again, like, great, you want to price WrestleMania at $700 a ticket, great, but where the families and the kids and everything can go is the house shows. But you've eliminated the house shows and still priced everything out the window.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely have dropped the ball, and we'll see what happens with that, because if they don't sell out these WrestleManias, they're going to get a lot of backlash from the investors, because that's all they're worried about is the investors. They're not worried about you and me, the little guy. They're worried about investors. So they'll have to answer to them.
Well, I think it's a lot of things right now, because, like I said, I think there's a problem with Triple H. I think there's a problem with the storylines right now. I think there's a problem with talent development. There's a lot of things going on right now that it's just like, what are we doing? Because I was listening to, I forget who it was, on a podcast. It might have been Undertaker, it might have been somebody else, but they were basically saying, like, the average wrestler might have 1 to 3 years, and then it's every 5 to 10 years you find a guy that might be there for 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's kind of like football and like generational talent, right? Of like finding these guys that are going to be there long term. So like, to find a guy like Randy Orton, that happens once every 15 years, say. Like, a guy like Randy Orton comes along. But then you have guys like once every couple of years, you get a guy like Hornswoggle or, Eugene, where like they have their moments for a year or two. But again, it's one of those where the talent doesn't really stay. Like, they age out, they whatever, and then like I said, you got guys like The Miz. You know what I mean? Like, The Miz has been around forever.
23 years, yeah. Yeah.
So like I said, it's when you find those guys, it's every so often. And like I said, it seems like they're finding less and less of those people.
There is a vacuum right now, especially because you had the big guys just retire, right? And you had all the Hall of Famers that they're leaving, whatever.
Well,
But
I
there
think
is
a lot of
guys.
also, and let's be honest, like, it's also AEW. It's some of the smaller promotions, whether it be New Japan or whatever. Like, they're keeping talent away from WWE, and some of the talent kind of is saying, hey, what am I going to go to WWE for if I'm going to get lost in the shuffle?
Yeah, you're gonna lost in the shuffle.
When I can stay here and be a superstar.
Yeah, absolutely. Again,
How long did AJ Styles do that?
well, it's not that he didn't want to come. It's just that Vince didn't want him, didn't believe in him. That's what that was. Vince did not have. He has no idea who he was and didn't believe him because he doesn't watch everybody else's product. He has people for that. So
Yeah,
the
but
last 10
then you
years
got
with
guys
us.
like what's his name? Danhausen.
Danhausen made his debut. It was stupid. He came out of a box. He got booed out of the building. That
Yeah.
was a stupid way to introduce him. Again, you just talked about that booking, how booking's been dumb. That's a dumb booking. Yeah, definitely.
Well, but I mean, Danhausen's gimmick also is kind of
Short.
like it works great in the indies. Like have you ever watched it's a wrestling match of it's like Jesus is wrestling? Have you ever seen those?
No.
I'll have to send them to you. I'll find it. But it's a wrestling match of like there's a guy that dresses up as Santa Claus, and then there was a guy that dressed up as Jesus, and like it was like an indie wrestling match like around Christmas, and like Jesus is just like literally doing like a choke slam, but he's not touching the person. He's using the Holy Spirit to like lift and choke slam the guy. I'll have to send it to you. But it's like some of those gimmicks and stuff like that you can get away with in like the indies, but then like once you come to WWE, it's like, you know, like the Orange Cassidy thing, right? The sloth style wrestling, and but the problem is like with Orange Cassidy is he slow plays the wrestling match for so long, and then all of a sudden, like at the end of the match, it's like he kicks it into a gear, and you're like, oh shit, he's actually a really good wrestler.
It's a gimmick.
Yeah. So, but again, it's one of those where in WWE, I think they look at stuff and they don't know how to use it. They don't know how to capitalize on it. Or again, because of their safety and whatever, because they're a publicly traded company, it's one of those where like they have the rules of like, you can't perform this move because it's too dangerous and somebody can hurt themselves, and like the whole no blood. You know what I mean? Like,
well, they went, once they became a publicly traded company, they went into the PG era, and that's because of that. And I get it, but there's blood. I mean, it's a physical aspect of choreographed action. So
and don't get me wrong, like I'm against like the death matches and shit. Like I think that like some of the stuff, like even some of the stuff Mick Foley did when we were younger with the barbed wire and the thumbtacks and like some of that stuff, it's like, dude, I don't need something like that, right? However, like being thrown off the cage, or you know, jumping off the cage, like doing a frog splash off the top of the cage, like that stuff always was cool. Like some of the best matches I ever thought were like Shane McMahon's matches.
Oh, Shane always put his body on the line.
Right,
jumping off the Titantron, getting thrown off the Titantron. You know, he did everything.
Or like Kurt Angle, like throwing him, like, you know, doing the belly to belly, like through the glass.
Or he didn't go through the glass and he landed on his head.
Right, but then they did it again and again until he finally did go through the glass.
Yeah.
You know, but again, it's one of those where, like I said, the high points of some of the stuff now, it's the rules, it's the stipulations of what's too dangerous, what's, you know, like I said, sometimes, dude, I watch some of the stuff that AEW does with like the twisting, you know, flying acrobatic stuff. And it's like, they put on a performance, man. And it's like, some of the moves are crazy. And then it's like,
they are, but longevity wise, those guys are not going to be able to do that in 5-10 years and have a long lasting career. And also, what kind of story are you telling? Are you just doing flippity flips to do flippity flips? Or are you actually telling a story that's compelling? Because
and that's where I feel like AEW lacks is
storytelling.
The storytelling. It's like they have great in ring performances.
Yeah.
It's the storytelling that's lacking.
Yeah.
And where it's like right now, WWE is telling great stories, but the in ring is lacking. So it's like it's the complete opposite of E2. It's like one has great stories, one has great in ring performance, and then like the in ring performance over here sucks, stories over here suck.
I feel like it. Yeah, we got to remember WWE is very heavily micromanaged. You know, your matches to the minute. You know, you have producers. This is the story you're going to tell. All right, cool. Let's get together. What moves do you want to do? Blah blah blah. All right, can we fit it in this time frame? where AEW has a lot more leeway because the wrestlers are putting that match together. I don't think they have producers going over them. I think they have a lot more leeway of what they want to do, how they want to do it, and then they're given like a loose outline as far as time.
Yeah,
So
and I think that's also part of the crazy thing is like, where WWE used to be like this 3-hour thing on a Monday, now all of a sudden it's SmackDown, it's all this other stuff. And then like maybe that's part of the reason too, is like half your talent is spread out between Monday night and Friday night or Thursday night.
Well, they don't have them. They rarely have them going back and forth to the. They pretty much stick to the brand unless it's around WrestleMania.
But again, that to me is part of the reason it can be
gotta build
watered
stars.
down as well.
You've got it again. You're building stars. Trick Williams pulled up, phenomenal. Has the look, has the promo, can wrestle. He's literally everything that you want as the next up and comer. He started as an extra, and I've seen he was an extra. He was just like a guard in I forgot who the wrestler was, where he was portraying like a militant, and he was a guard and he looked all scared and stupid. And now he has the confidence and the look and the body, and now like he's been pulled up, and he's going to be the next guy to get the rocket, to get pushed up. I'm telling you right now, Trick Williams is going to be the real deal.
Yeah. Well, but that's the whole thing is like what I'm saying is in the old days where it was Monday Night Raw, that was it. So like all your talent was on Monday night. Like I said, now you have the roster split in half.
Yeah,
so
but
maybe
it doesn't allow for
why
it doesn't allow for the guys and the girls to get time. Remember back in the day, it was a bra and panty match that was 3 minutes long. Boom, back to commercial and then coming back. And The Rock had 4 segments and Stone Cold had 3 segments. It was very saturated on the top side, and you were never developing from the bottom. And
maybe that's where I'm just used to the being saturated with the top end.
stars. Yeah.
Hey,
all right, before
I gotta grow. I gotta. But like I said, I've talked about where like I just feel like WWE's roster is a bunch of mid card guys that they're pushing as stars, and it's like I don't feel their performances are that great. Like I don't, and maybe again, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, and McFoley and The Rock, like they may have ruined me for like this generation of wrestling.
Yeah,
because again, you watch LA Knight, who it's like, dude, LA Knight, you should be a guy, and then you botch like continuously, and it's like, dude, like I can't, other than like Shawn Michaels with the Hogan, where he was just doing it as a gimmick. Like I don't remember Shawn Michaels really ever botching something like that.
No, very, very rare. I mean, it was minimal. It wasn't something like, oh my God, he messed up. It was like, oh, his splash was off a little bit, stuff like that. But nothing that was noticeable. Yeah. All right, JC, let's before we get out of here, I'm gonna open one of the special packs on air.
Ooh, save it for this week.
2026 Series 1. 4 trading cards in here. It's a hobby exclusive. Tops. All right, here we go. All right, we got an Astros Bryce Matthews refractor. It's a refractor there.
Okay.
Leave it down. All right, your next one is Carl Raleigh. Another refractor. There we go. See that?
Okay, very shiny.
Just shiny there, a little shiny. Oh, you'll love this. And I'm not giving this one to Ivan. I am not giving this one to Ivan or you. A Pete Cora Armstrong refractor. That looks
very nice. There we go.
That's pretty badass. All right, next card is a Joe Houston, or I can't say his name, Garcia. He's a rookie from the Red Sox. So it's at 4, and I got an extra card in my hand. I don't know what it is yet, but here's this one. This is that rookie card from the Red Sox. And I got an extra card in my hand. All right, it says Tops 75. Oh, it's just a promo. Okay. I thought I had an extra card. It's just a promo card that says Top 75. But pretty good. Pretty good. I got the PCA is a pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say the PCA is a nice little piece.
Yeah, I'll put that in one of those nice hard frames. Definitely a cool card. Again, I'm slow burning this. I'm enjoying the amount of money I spent on that box, and slowly opening these not just like I'll open them all because I want to enjoy this. I want to enjoy it. So you got about another eight packs in there.
You have what, another one of the special pack?
I got
Pretty
one
sure.
more special pack in there, and we'll open that next Sunday. So just program. We'll be on Sundays for the next March, April, and May. So the next 3 months we'll be on Sundays. Let's say 8:00. I know you're still working, right?
Sundays I get out at 9 p.m. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, maybe we can start at 8:30 and go to 8:30 to 10, and that way we'll give you some time to get out into the back end of the show.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Sounds good. We did about almost 2 hours again. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Please share with all your friends, family, your enemies, your frenemies, all of that, your crushes, everybody. Send it out to everybody. Again, thank you for listening, for watching. Thank you to our sponsor, 606 Media, True Chicago Sports Fans. Check us out on our socials. They're right down there, all down there. Yep, all there. And visit 606 Media and buy some merch. Keep the show going. That's the way we continue to do the shows, when you guys support us by buying or coming out and donating. I take donations. I have tons of gear too. I'm gonna organize that this week, and got to do an inventory of how much gear we have, so we can start selling that gear that's still hanging around in my truck. So again, follow us on Facebook, IG, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you can find us. Scan the code up there; it'll take you straight to the YouTube channel. You can see JC on the Twitter, JC Dynasty Fantasy Football FF, and I am Big Z _606 on all of my socials. So, for Ivan, for JC, I am Big Z. We'll see you on Sunday for episode 293, and until then, be good to each other for the love of sports.